Good morning, CFV. It's Thursday, and I have been thinking about the CrossFit pyramid. If you're not familiar with the CrossFit pyramid, it's a hierarchy of priorities when it comes to your training. It starts with nutrition as the base, and then we have metabolic conditioning as second tier, third tier, bodyweight gymnastics, fourth tier, weightlifting and throws, fifth tier, the pinnacle of our pyramid, is sport. Today I'm just going to break down and we'll talk about the whole pyramid, and then over the next couple of weeks we'll talk about each individual component. We'll have a couple guests on we'll call it a vlog. We'll have a couple guests on and we'll talk about all of the things that go into each component, and we'll really dig in. But today, just a brief overview of all of the things. And you know, it's so common because it's so relatable. We're going to talk a lot about cars and the analogy of cars and how that helps us understand the body and fueling and all of these things. So let's dive right in. Nutrition is the base of our pyramid. This is the fuel for your engine. It doesn't just fuel you, but it creates an opportunity to train harder and recover better. So think about the quality of fuel and the amount of fuel that you put in your car. If you're driving around, just going to get groceries, you don't need a lot of fuel. You probably, if you're not driving a high-end car, you don't need great fuel. You can get away with cheap fuel. But as soon as you want to start taking your driving to the next level, you need to make sure that you're giving yourself appropriate fuel. So if I want to train more, and that doesn't mean necessarily in the gym, but if I just want to do more things, like I'm coming to CrossFit 3 times per week, but mountain biking seems really appealing to me, or running, or paddleboarding, or just going on walks and hikes with my family. As soon as I want to start doing more, I need more fuel. And then as soon as I start caring about how I feel, I need to improve the quality of the fuel. So we're talking about macronutrient breakdown, protein, carbs, and fats, as well as the quality of those, how well my body absorbs them, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, all of that stuff really starts to play a factor. So nutrition as the base, the broader we grow our base, the taller we can grow our pyramid. Next tier is metabolic conditioning. This is fuel economy. So it's how well we use the fuel in our body. Again, it's gonna help us with recovery, and it's going to improve our work capacity, which is going to allow us to train harder. A better analogy than this is, rather than thinking about having a big gas tank, think about the old super soaker, right? You fill the tank with water, you pump it up, and then you spray it, and then it dies. But there's still fuel in the tank. It's our ability to access that fuel readily. So the more often I have to pump and then shoot and pump and shoot and pump and shoot, that is a poor work capacity. I'm having to take breaks to recover more so that I can keep working. If I only have to pump up my super soaker a couple times and then I can drain the entire tank, well, that's a really, really great super soaker. And then I can start thinking, well, maybe I can just put a bigger tank on this thing and pump it up a couple of times and I can go even longer and longer and longer. The real benefit to having good metabolic conditioning is work capacity, which lets us do more. I always think about when I first started getting into learning about training, bobsleigh athletes. Bobsleigh athletes push a sled for 5 seconds, and then they hop in and then they ride it down. But those athletes need a high amount of work capacity to get through the training that allows them to be strong and powerful enough to push that sled for 5 seconds. So work capacity allows us to do more, and that's metabolic conditioning. Next up, body weight and gymnastics. These are the parts of your car. You know, the tires, the brakes, the suspension, the steering wheel, the shifter, all of that thing, all of those things, we need to be able to do the movements, and we need to be able to do them well. This is mobility, flexibility, and positions, knowing where our body is in space. So mobility and flexibility, being able to get there. Positions, knowing where we are, and then being consistent with them. CrossFit always talks about mechanics, consistency, intensity. Bodyweight and gymnastics is the mechanics and the consistency piece of that hierarchy. So bodyweight and gymnastics, third tier. Fourth tier, weightlifting and throws. This is the material that our parts are made of. Just because we have brakes doesn't mean that they're great. You know, there's ceramic brakes, and there's metal brakes, and there's composite brakes, and there's all these things, and there's different rubber compounds for tires and tread patterns. Weightlifting and throws are what add strength to our fundamental body weight in gymnastics. Weightlifting and throws lets us lean on things like progressive overload. Keep in mind, it's only necessary when we have the mechanics and consistency piece. Weightlifting throws is intensity. So we've got mechanics, consistency. Now we can add intensity to that equation, and we can really start ramping things up. But it's only necessary once we have the parts in place. Then we can look at starting to improve those parts. And then sport is our outcome. If you're competitive in CrossFit, it's competing in CrossFit. If it's running or hiking or mountain biking or skiing or volleyball or soccer or hockey, whatever it is, having these foundational elements underneath our sport allows us to, one, play our sport. So if I haven't got work capacity, I can't, if I've got low work capacity and I get out of breath as I'm walking up the stairs, going out on the ice to play a game of pickup hockey is probably not going to go very well. Or getting out on my mountain bike and pedaling up a steep hill, it's not going to happen. I need that work capacity. I need the requisite level of strength to be able to push down on my pedals or stride out in my skate. This is what allows us to enjoy our sport. And it can be anything. Once we have a strong foundation, then we can start to enjoy whatever the outcome that we're after is. And sport is kind of a loose term. It's just the enjoyment of something. The bigger our pyramid is underneath it, the more we can enjoy our sport. And my experience with this is in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When I started Jiu-Jitsu, I was just coming out of being a competitive CrossFit athlete, so I had a very high level of work capacity. I had good body, flexibility, mobility, and positions. I was aware of where my body was in space. I had good strength from all the weightlifting that I had been doing, and I was able to really enjoy jiu-jitsu, and I was able to progress quickly because I had a very strong foundation of my pyramid. I was able to focus on sport. Whereas what I noticed with my peers was because they didn't have a strong foundation to their pyramid and they jumped right to sport, a lot of them were resting. So if we were doing wrestling rounds, 5 minutes on, 1 minute off, in an hour of wrestling, I would get 6 or 7 rounds in, and other guys were resting every other round. So they would only get 2, maybe 3 rounds in. I was getting in twice as much practice of my sport because of the strong foundation that I had. I had good nutrition to fuel my efforts. I had high levels of work capacity. My metabolic conditioning was good. I had a healthy body from the gymnastics and body weight, and I was strong. So those 4 elements combined to really dial in my jiu-jitsu game, and I was able to progress quite quickly. Same goes with mountain biking, road cycling, running, any of the outside of CrossFit fitness endeavors I've engaged in. Because of the foundation that I have in my pyramid that I get from CrossFit training, I'm able to enjoy those things even if I'm not very good at them. I enjoy them because my fitness is there to support them. So that's the breakdown of the pyramid. Nutrition, number 1, most important, that's your fuel. Metabolic conditioning, that's your work capacity. That's what allows you to do things. Body weight and gymnastics, that's your ability to hit the positions that you need to for whatever you're doing. It could be squats, push-ups, pull-ups, or running, cycling, all of those things. We just need to be able to get into those positions. Weightlifting and throws, that's how we can progressively overload and get stronger. And then sport is at the top, and that's what we really enjoy from having a general physical preparedness, which is what CrossFit programming is. Hope you guys found that interesting. See you next Thursday.